is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like the melody that's sweetly played in tune. So fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gang dry. Why, thank you, Mr. Robbie Burns. Most ardent greeting to you, gentlemen, and hello, ladies. We shan't discriminate, no. A rose for you all, my dear viewers. Ah, yes, the rose, the very symbol of England, with that sweet, alluring scent, the mollifying flower most associated with love, but with prickly little thorns to remind one that even beauty can be dangerous. Ladies and gents, welcome to this week's installment of Speaker's Corner. I am your host, Timothy Byron, and this is, well, it's my desk, actually. Our topic today, if you had not guessed, is roses. The rose. Of course, the rose. What kind of an Englishman would I be if I did not mention this emblem of my homeland? Ah, well, probably the type whose show's first episode would be about the bloody Electoral College, but huzzah and hooray! The witch is gone. The orange-faced witch. The orange-faced witch. Good. Right. Well, keep calm and carry on. The red variety crystallizes England herself. Roses, I mean, not orange-faced dictators. Canonized by the blood of everyone who fell during the War of the Roses. 30 years of civil wars between the Royal House of Lancaster, whose emblem was the red rose, and the Royal House of York, whose emblem was the white rose. It became known as the Union Rose, or the Tudor Rose. 5 inner petals of white for the House of York, and 5 outer petals, red, for the House of Lancaster. Prior to that, there was only one royal rose, the white rose. However, our focus today shall not be on the War of the Roses, but the rose itself. I did promise you something cheerier this week, didn't I? How is it that this flower came to represent love? Why is it that we give away these roses to those beloved to us? What makes this flower singular amongst all others to represent that most human of emotions, the very thing that some may argue distinguishes us from all the other animals? The one that wars have started and ended over. This gut-wrenching tale starts in the cradle of democracy, the birthplace of the Republic, according to them anyway, Greece. But, well, we'll tackle that another time. Suffice to say, it was not. But I digress. I'm sure you know who their goddess of love was, no? Of course, Aphrodite. Everyone knows her, but let's assume you didn't. She was the most beautiful, beguiling seductress of all the gods, evolved from Inanna, then Ishtar, and various other goddesses, to reach the most common of all the goddesses of love, Aphrodite. Incidentally, the scent of the rose is an aphrodisiac. Can you guess where that name came from? She is the only goddess that did not change, but evolved, later to Venus. All of them were associated with the rose, but none so more than Aphrodite herself. Aphrodite, the very embodiment of feminine love and wiles. There was this mortal by the name of Adonis, who, in his own right, was the most beautiful mortal man. So entrancing was he that the goddess of love herself fell for him. He was arguably the most beautiful mortal man that had ever trod the earth. With me so far? Thousands of years ago, red roses did not exist, or so our tale says. They were only white. Now, the story in and of itself is not as romantically pure as all that. You see, Aphrodite had seen Adonis's birth, and had essentially claimed him at that point. We here at Speaker's Corner do not condone such behaviour for very obvious reasons, but we are talking about gods and goddesses, not... No, I shall not sully my mouth and your ears, dear viewers, with that name. And yes, I am using the royal we in this instance. I'm feeling royally British today, more so than normal. Anyway, Aphrodite waited until he was of age before deciding to make this relationship carnal. Thank Zeus for that, eh? Or shall we? He was busy with his own adventures, or misadventures, rather. She was very mindful that she could not take care of the boy, and left him with Persephone, the queen of the underworld, whose descent into the underworld is a story we shall get into some other time. The poor dear, responsible for the seasons that we have. Incidentally, Persephone was also the daughter and niece of the god of all gods, Zeus, and his younger brother, king of the underworld, Hades. So she was his niece as well. But, well, that tale will come at another time. Isn't mythology fascinating? Back to Persephone. She was unwillingly Hades' wife, and resided there half the year, and I suppose she was glad for the company, especially that of this strapping young babe Adonis, literally. He stayed with her until at one point, when he was all grown, she herself found herself falling for him, and, well, ladies and gents, that is when things got a little hairy between her and the goddess of love, who was more like a goddess of abject hatred with Persephone over Adonis. My, what are two Olympian goddesses to do? Mayhaps they could resolve this unrequited love on their own. Of course not. It may have been the cradle of democracy, but not female empowerment. These ladies went to Zeus to take care of this challenge, and he sagaciously decided that Adonis should split time between the two. Mind you, Persephone's presence in the underworld, according to some tales, is largely attributed to Zeus's wisdom, or lack thereof. Brilliant! Such a novel concept there. King of the gods! I say this because it was not the first time that Zeus decided to split human beings between two or more of his gods or goddesses. Adonis spent the autumns and winters with Persephone, and springs and summers with Aphrodite. Jobs sorted, and off he popped. Mind you, he did that at the insistence of Persephone's mother, his sister, whose sadness caused the cold, unbearable weather. Adonis's pleasant seasons, well, most people associate spring and summer as pleasant climes, but to each their own. Anyway, he spent them as Aphrodite's quarry. Now, he was so charming, so beautiful, that the goddess of love was smitten with him, to the point that she felt the need to impress him. Contemplate that for a bit. The goddess that all mortals and immortals, all creatures, lined for impressing a mere young man. Nevertheless, she persisted, and Adonis loved all the attention, gifts, and the thrill of the chase. She would even dress as a huntress, leave her swan-drawn carriage to hunt down the object of her rampant lust when he was off on his own hunts. Unfortunately, he went off in the woods as they played their perpetual game of hunting the consort, when he got into a bit of a tiff with a boar. Now, this was no ordinary boar, mark you. This was no bore of a boar. Excuse me. Right. This was a monster of a boar. He was Aphrodite's consort, turned into a boar out of jealousy to end the life of the young man whom his wife was after. You see, the boar was Aphrodite's husband, in a sense. Adonis was himself a mighty fine hunter, so he and his hunting dogs were able to track and fend it off. The most beautiful man in the world hurled a spear at it, but that was merely a flesh wound. Well, it was actually fairly bad, but the boar had enough strength to impale our hero with his monstrous tusks. Oh no! Aphrodite heard the wails of her love and instantly flew to him, leaping out of her magnificent swan-drawn chariot. But alas! There was nothing to do for him. Not even a goddess herself could heal him, so she found him grievously wounded, the life draining from him in its blood-red form. She kissed him, a kiss like no other, but not the kiss of life, and tried to console the lad as much as possible, but there was nothing else she could do as he faded in her arms, looking her in the eye, his blood covering her, and the rosy ground around him as he drew his last laboured breath and departed to the realm of Persephone forever. The grief-stricken goddess, holding her lover, unable to join him in death, let the scarlet of his love seep into the stem of some of those white roses, turning them red to forever symbolize the enduring love that even death cannot undo. And thus we have the red roses, used until our very day between lovers to express their innermost feelings to each other. Of course, you may also be familiar with The Nightingale and the Rose by our very own Mr. Wilde, the smitten poor boy who wanted to impress the young lady of his dreams by presenting her with a rose like no other. He spoke of his sorrows to the nightingale that he conversed with, as you do. The nightingale, sympathetic to his plight and ever so romantic, sang a song like no other as he sank his heart into the thorn of the white rose, turning it a marvellous colour of blood red, literally from the heart. The young boy ran into the abode of the young lady, only to have the gates open to a garden filled with red roses that made his ordinary, and the nightingale's sacrifice for naught. Mr. Wilde's inspiration for this story came from mystic poets of Sufism, who often associated the beauty of the nightingale and his love affair with roses. There are many a story where flowers gain their colour, as we know them now, from gods and goddesses or unrequited love. Perhaps we will get to them another day, but for now, with apologies to Mr. Wilde, I shall quote, if slightly change, his last farewell, which he left to his wife as a farewell to you, my dear lads and lasses. I can write no stately proem as a prelude to my lay. From a poet, that's me, to a poem, that's you. I would dare to say that if of those fallen petals one to you seems fair, love will waft it till it settles in your hair. And when wind and winter harden all the loveless land, it will whisper of the garden. You will understand. Now, be a darling, and click the subscribe button. Oh, you're doing it. Oh, bless my soul. Look at you go. That's it. Now chime that bell ever so softly, seductively. Yes, just like that. Just like that. Now, all you have to do is share it with your loved ones, and maybe perhaps your not-so-loved ones. Well, that's it. That's all I can say. Leave a comment down below. I love to hear from you. This was Speaker's Corner with your host, Tim Byron, and I hope you're looking forward to the next week's chapter of our little tales and what we have in store for you. Maybe I should decorate this office. What do you think? Have you got any suggestions? What should I have on my desk apart from this beast that lives next to me? Anyway, ta-ta, cheerio, pip-pip, and all that, and here's looking at you, kid. Goodbye. Hello again, my lovelies. Thank you so much for watching that video. It really means a lot. well, what can I say? Keep the smile going. Do remember to subscribe, ring that bell. It helps out like you wouldn't believe. It just makes me so happy. You can see this big smile of mine. Keep calm, carry on, keep a stiff upper lip, and if you like, there are some other channels in the description. I apologise for their content, but I think they're worth a watch, probably. If anything, just to educate yourself. Best of the British to you. Pip pip, cheerio. And don't forget to subscribe. Till next time, this was Speaker's Corner. Ta-ra.